Previously on the RX8 build, we took it to the dyno to see how much power it actually makes. After some shocking results, Ben challenged me to a race.
Ben, I bet you anything that my S2000 would walk this thing on a track.
His S2000 versus my RX8. But I'm gonna need some more power if I wanna beat a Honda. So I had Eric from Rad Potential come over and Bridgeport my RX8. And with the Bridgeport rotary assembled and in the car, all that was left was some break-in miles. Well, we officially have a running and driving Bridgeport RX8. This thing has been running and driving since the last episode was filmed. It's about 2 weeks or so. Mark has been driving around, putting some miles on it to break in. How many miles do we have on it now?
We got about 411 miles.
411 miles, a record-breaking feat for a Bridgeport rotary. We got to do a little bit more miles on it than that just to get it to be fully broken in before we can dyno it and see how much power it makes. Unfortunately, in the last episode, I wasn't able to help too much because I was working on rebuilding the EK from the wreck, which hopefully you've seen that video. It's an over an hour long video. Go back and watch that. Shout out to that video. But now we're gonna do some more upgrades to this car because I don't think that the Bridgeport is gonna be enough of a power adder to beat a Kswap S2000.
It's not.
I'll
let you know that now. It's not.
Eric from Rad Potential has given me a couple more pointers on modifications that we can do to the Bridgeport that will help increase the horsepower even more. And we're gonna do those mods here today in this video. And then once those mods are put on, we're gonna go to the dyno and actually see how much power improvement that we've gotten. And hopefully it's a lot.
My money is still on the S2000.
So the first upgrade that we're doing is a header. And this thing looks awesome. Honestly, it's pretty cool. It's like half of the V6 header, and this is all we need. Because the engine is a 6-port, we have 3 exhaust runners, but this is the cheapest modification I think that I've ever purchased. This was $150. Eric told me that I should get this one. The brand name is FAPO. I don't necessarily endorse it, but we're gonna try it. So the FAPO header, despite the quality sounding name, is not the most quality header. I'm gonna prep the surface here because it looks like it's pretty porous and I wanna make sure that the exhaust gasket seals that really well. So I'm gonna sand it smooth so it's not quite as porous to hopefully give it a better mating surface for the gasket. Oh man, this is just like Fast and Furious. Put the shiny part in.
You got to hand it to Ben. He's, trying his best to make sure that he beats this S2000. Well, him and Eric, was coming up with a plan, and Eric recommended these Coilpacks for Ben. Apparently, they, net you a gain of 5 to 10 horsepower. So I'd be interested to see if, that's what we get. That's quite a bit beefier. So driving this car around 400 miles, noticed that, the drivability isn't perfect. It's still on the stock tune. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook up the laptop and have the car learn, a good street tune. That way when we, go to the dyno, all that is already taken care of.
Well, we're here at the dyno and I've brought my tuner with me, Mark. Mark, you've got that tune all tip-top shape. We're gonna make like 300 horsepower?
No, we're gonna make like 195.
195. Mark's prediction's 195. It made 170 previously. And I like to consider myself a bit of a realist. I'm gonna say 185.
Yeah,
a 183. Yeah. So my guess, a 185 was closer than I wish it was. That's amazing.
All right, let's see.
It made a lot more torque though, 131 torque. We'll do a couple pulls just to make sure that we don't have any like flukes or misnomers. Maybe tweak the tune a little bit.
If it starts to be a diminishing return, you know, like if you pull a bunch of fuel and then it starts losing power, then obviously put the fuel back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there risk of explosion by going too far with this?
No, I mean, I wouldn't go into like 13.5, but like if you're 12 something, 13 something, like it's not going to hurt it.
Yeah.
It's an NA rotary. They're pretty indestructible when it comes to just flogging on them, you know?
All right, I heard a challenge there. He said they're indestructible. Hey, we made horsepower. 1.
Yeah, we made 1.
Let me ask him how much ignition time we can add. Well, he just said until it stops making power, right? So add another to the ignition table. Hey, that's 2 more. Shoot.
I don't even remember what I predicted.
195.
195?
And Eric said 200. I said 185.
This is gonna be it. This is gonna be
Yeah.
188.
Yeah. Or 187.9.
Yeah, it's the same.
I'm calling that 188.
That's guy math.
That's 188. So Bridgeport your car and go from 171 to 188. All right, well, 188 isn't quite as much power as I was expecting or hoping. So let's make some other changes. So Mike, we got the car off the dyno with the Bridgeport and it makes 188 horsepower.
That's a magical number, my friend.
It's not enough is what it is. Yeah, I think Ben makes like 230, 235 or something like that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna probably need more than just horsepower to beat him because I'm also heavier. So I'm thinking maybe just like some big tires. Do you know what size I don't know if you can tell me this, but what size tire did he get from you?
I'll tell you this much. Anything above 235 would be bigger than this.
Oh, anything above that? Okay. Well, so I have some wheels already that I think I can throw on there because the stock wheels are only like 8 or 8.5 inches wide. So that's probably not enough for like enough tire. But I have some 10-inch wheels. So the widest on a 10-inch wheel would be like what, a 275?
All right, yeah, we'll send some 275s your way. My advice for you on race day, hopefully I'll see you soon, is don't slow down.
Don't slow, I got it. I'm just gonna forget about brakes. The wheels on my RX-7 are exactly the right size that I need, hopefully, to fit some 275s. They're an 18 by 10, which is still kind of narrow for a 275, but it should work. I will do whatever it takes to beat Ben in any form of competition. And in this case, I think what it's gonna take is tires, since I don't make as much power as him and I am heavier. So I'm gonna try to out-grip him with some 275 Nitto NT01s, and we're gonna put them on my RX-7 wheels. That means I have to put the RX-7 up on jack stands and take the wheels from it. Okay, so these are Nitto NT01 tires that just came in. They are track tires, it says on the side, for competition use only. They are a 100 tread wear tire, which is effectively like the wear rating on it. So the lower the tread wear rating is, the softer the compound is. Most track events that we go to are limited to a 200 tread wear. You can't go below that. So you don't see these run too often, but they are a good tire. They're the same compound as the Toyo R888. And I think that the tread pattern looks pretty dang cool. And most importantly, it's wider than Ben's. This is Ben's tire that he's gonna be running on the S2000, and it's a 235. Can you believe that? We're gonna be running 275s, which hopefully makes up for the power and weight delta between the two cars. It looks like I'm about to go do a GT3 race or something. Like the fitment, like the way that it sits. So the stock wheels that came off the car are 225 widths, and they're all seasons. We didn't have these on the road trip. We were actually running 255 snow tires. But now we're going to 275. And this is the most like you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about moment I think that I have ever seen.
pessimist or anything like that, but you know, you got the Bridgeport done. The header, the ignition coils, the wheels, the tires, you know that's not gonna be enough to beat an S2000, right? Especially Ben's S2000.
Yeah, it is hard to beat a Honda. I will give you that. I will give you that.
So my question for you is, what else are you gonna do? I mean, you know, not to, you know, pull favorites, but I'm rooting for the S2000 now.
All right, I got something. I got something right over here. This is the old wing from my Civic. It's too big for my current class, so I took it off, but I still have it. Carbon fiber, lightweight, and arguably the perfect size. Maybe a little big, but we're gonna need it, right? Yeah? Yeah?
That is a big win. Eric went ahead and made these brackets for us, which puts us a whole lot further along. So thank you, Eric.
Make sure to follow Rad Potential on YouTube.
Probably.
This looks like the most backyard looking. It is functional, and this is like a $2,500 wing, but it doesn't look great. I'm not gonna lie. Well, so the Forza spec wing is on, secured, and mounted, and this is the part where I would normally like sit on the wing to show you just how functional it is. But because we're mounted to the trunk, there is a significant amount of flex. So as a result of that flex, we don't want to rip the trunk apart because this wing at full tilt would produce probably 400 or 500 pounds of downforce at top speed. So that's too much for a trunk to handle. You'd want to have a chassis mounted system like what I have on the EK for that. So we took a lot of angle out, and we had 7 degrees is max that we could run with this setup, and we've taken it out to 2.9, which is not a ton of angle. So realistically, we're probably only looking at 100 or 200 pounds of downforce, which is still somewhat questionable for the trunk's integrity, but we do need to balance out. If you put downforce on the rear of the car, that's gonna actually pick up the front of the car, which means I'm gonna have like some crazy understeer. So now we gotta make a splitter. Just per usual, Eric has made some brackets for us to make this job way easier.
Thank you, Eric.
Because he has a laser table, so he cut these out of aluminum, so they're pretty light. And this will be the starting point for our splitter mounts, which will be frame mounted on the front, so we don't have to worry about any flex issues on the front. All right, now that we have Eric's cut mounts on the chassis, bolted up and very rigid, now we get to take out the Professional Awesome stuff. If you don't know about them, they are the best at like DIY aero stuff. And they sell all sorts of stuff that'll make this whole process a lot easier. So we have this bracket next, which is gonna bolt up to the bracket that Eric made. So we have the bolt spacing there. And you'll see it's a really long adjustable range. And they make these in different lengths as well. So this is gonna be the next basically bracket down from that chassis mounted bracket to set the height of where we want the splitter to be. Then attached to that are gonna be these things, which are quick release clamps. So those bolt into this bracket down here. And so when you put the splitter on, you literally just push it up and it clamps into this. And then to release the splitter, you just pull on this lever here and it drops the splitter down. It's freaking awesome. I have the same setup on the Civic. And this here is the part that goes onto the splitter itself. You bolt this right to the splitter and that goes into this quick release clamp. And there you go. You also have some angle adjustability so you can change the angle of the splitter once you actually get it mounted up. And all assembled, this is how it looks. So we can just bolt this right onto the bracket that Eric has, and we're ready to mount the actual wood part of the splitter where we're gonna cut and trim everything. because this is a Mazda RX8 and they like to do everything weird and different, the radiator doesn't just take air from here, it also takes air from under here. So they made the bumper all funky shaped. So if we put an air dam that filled up this whole area, then the radiator wouldn't have enough cooling. So we can't do that. So we're only gonna make an air dam for these little side pieces, and that will allow air to come directly in here into the radiator, which actually will help our cooling. I will take cooling over having all that extra suction anyway. Well, I'm adding some brackets for rigidity here, just to keep the splitter a little bit from flexing, but also it's gonna direct just a little bit of airflow towards the radiator. And this one here is also rigidity, but I'm flipping this back a little bit because the air that's gonna come into the front part of the splitter, which is a clean entry, is gonna hit this piece, and I want it to hit and go up because that's where the radiator is. Well, there we go. We have a functional big front splitter, the biggest splitter that I have ever had, and it clearly supports my weight. Take the Crocs off so I don't get dirty, but we have a functional splitter. Now the problem is that this splitter I think is so big, it's bigger than my Civic splitter, and I know how much downforce that makes. This is gonna make more than that one, which means the rear wing probably needs some more angle, because we have so much front downforce now that the rear is probably gonna be loose. So I wanna put more angle in the rear wing, but I obviously can't do that.
So while Ben reinforces the trunk for the rear wing, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing this oil change. It's got a little over 500 miles in break-in, so we need to change out that oil. So obviously we're about to change out the brake pads. We went with the Hawk DTC 60s. These will stop really, really good, really fast. Usually anytime you want to go to the track, the most important things that you want to change are your brake pads and your brake fluid so you don't boil the fluid.
It's as strong as the trunk is. So if it comes up, it's because the trunk just isn't strong enough. All right, we're gonna put one more bracket here to distribute the load wider and then also give us a little bit of an easier adjustability. This is called a turnbuckle. So the threads go in like a normal threaded bolt on this side, but on this side they're reverse thread. So that when it's together, all you have to do is turn this and it changes the length of the whole contraption. So putting that on the back side of the wing will help us adjust the angle much easier by just turning this, and I'm gonna put another bolt here to lock it in place basically. So we'll be able to turn this until we get the angle set exactly where we want it. Professional Awesome compression fittings, which are meant for carbon fiber rods, just so happens to be the exact diameter of this threaded rod. Not recommended for use, but I'm gonna do it anyway. The wing's not gonna go anywhere if this mount comes off, so it's not like it's a huge deal. Yeah, it's just an extra support. So I'm using a Professional Awesome splitter rod with a Professional Awesome splitter rod attachment for the wing. Okay, so splitter's on, rear wing is on, brake pads are on, fluid.
Oil change, fluid, brake fluid.
And then, yeah, oil. I think the car is done, but now, out of just a massive amount of curiosity, I wanna know how heavy it is.
Wow.
That's pretty heavy.
That is terrible.
What did you think it was?
Not that.
Oh, factory is 3,100, so it's actually about 40 pounds lighter than factory, with aero.
I hate to say it, Ben, but I don't think this is enough. Like, this is not gonna beat an S2000.
This is the most aero I've ever run before. This is the biggest splitter I've ever had.
It just doesn't, you just didn't do enough to the car to get it ready for this event to beat an S2000.
These are literally the widest tires I've ever run on a track car before.
You know what? You're just gonna have to prove me wrong.
I guess I will.